It was a cold winter night when Laila decided to visit her grandfather's old house on the edge of the village, the house everyone whispered about, the one no one dared approach after sunset. They said strange lights flickered there at night, that sometimes you could hear footsteps in the empty rooms, and that her grandfather hadn't died, he had vanished in the cellar. Laila never believed in those stories. She thought they were nothing more than old wives' tales meant to scare children. But that night, something pulled her there, a mix of curiosity and defiance. She needed to retrieve an old box she had left years ago, and she convinced herself she'd be in and out before midnight. The moment she reached the front gate, a cold wind brushed against her face like invisible fingers. The moon hung pale and distant behind a thick fog, and every branch that swayed in the wind looked like a shadow trying to move closer. She hesitated only for a second before pushing open the creaking door. The sound that came from it didn't just echo, it moaned, as if the house itself was waking up after a long sleep. Inside, everything was coated in dust. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of rot and damp wood. Her flashlight flickered, and the beam caught the picture of her grandfather on the wall. For a second, she smiled until she noticed something strange. In the photograph, behind her grandfather, was a dark shape, a shadow of a man, standing too close, where no one had ever been. Her stomach twisted, but she forced herself to keep walking. The wooden floor creaked under her boots. She could hear the faint echo of her own footsteps, except it wasn't just hers. There was a second rhythm, faint, delayed, following her. When she reached the basement door, the handle was so cold it burned her skin. She hesitated, her breath visible in the air, though there was no reason it should be that cold. She whispered to herself, "It's just the old pipes." Nothing else. Then she pushed the door open. The staircase groaned under her weight, her light trembled with every step. When she reached the bottom, she froze. The cellar looked wider than she remembered, and in the far corner stood a large mirror, tilted slightly against the wall, covered in years of dust. She frowned. "That wasn't here before," she muttered. Something about it felt wrong, not just its presence, but the way it seemed to glow faintly, even in the darkness. She wiped the dust away with her sleeve, revealing her reflection. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Then, she noticed, her reflection was smiling. But she wasn't. The smile spread wider, unnatural, stretching the reflection's face until it looked almost inhuman. Laila stepped back. The reflection didn't. It kept smiling, then slowly lifted its hand, the wrong hand, and traced a single word on the inside of the glass: "Come." The air grew heavier. Her heart pounded as she stumbled backward, but the ground beneath her felt soft, alive. She looked down and screamed, though no sound came out. The floor was turning dark, sinking, and in the next second, she was pulled down, into the mirror. She fell endlessly through shadows until she landed hard on cold stone. When she looked around, her breath caught in her throat. She was still in a cellar, but not the same one. The walls pulsed, like something alive was breathing inside them. The floor shimmered like liquid, reflecting faces that weren't hers. She turned and saw herself, or rather, another version of herself, standing at the other end of the room, motionless, smiling that same impossible smile. Laila tried to run, but every hallway she entered led her back to the same room, the same mirror, the same smiling version of herself. From somewhere in the dark, whispers began, her name, over and over, in voices that sounded like her mother's. Her grandfather's, even her own, Laila. "Come closer." She clamped her hands over her ears, trembling, whispering to herself, "This isn't real." But the whispers grew louder, until the reflection in the mirror spoke again, this time in her voice, broken and hollow, "You're here now." "It's my turn." The reflection stepped forward. Its hand reached through the glass, pale and thin, and before she could react, it grabbed her wrist. The world twisted, colors bleeding together, her skin burning like fire and ice, then darkness. When she opened her eyes again, she was staring out from inside the mirror. On the other side stood the cellar, empty, silent. Her own body, or what looked like her, was walking away, holding the old box, humming softly. She tried to scream, to pound on the glass, but all that came out was silence. Days later, her uncle came to the house, looking for her. The door was open, the house was cold. Down in the cellar, he found the mirror, standing upright again, perfectly clean. He looked at it, and for a brief, flickering second, he saw Layla's face staring back at him, begging. He stumbled back, blinking. When he looked again, she was gone. Just his own reflection now, pale and shaking. He exhaled, trying to convince himself it was nothing, until the reflection behind him, his reflection, smiled and wrote on the glass, "Too late." Since that night, no one in the village dares to go near the house. Those who do say that sometimes when the moon is full you can see a girl's face appear in the cellar mirror, whispering, laughing softly, and if you look long enough you'll see your own reflection start to smile back. If you enjoyed the story, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe for more terrifying horror tales.